So we're down here on Rocky Creek in Great Falls with founder of Great Falls Adventures, Mike Vaughn.
Jackson, we're right beside Rocky Creek, like you said. If you look behind us, you see a channel that was formed by either man or by the good Lord when he cut it through here. But the creek's on the other side. This is just a channel going around a small island. We're to the area where the bridge across the old Winsboro Road was, and we're gonna take a look at that. Then we're gonna look at a couple of mill sites. That's what I'm gonna take you to see today.
It's gonna be pretty cool.
We're down here on Rocky Creek at what is the site of a bridge that crossed the creek and went to old Winsboro Road, so that citizens back in the pre-revolution and the revolutionary days and after that could go to Winsboro and get across Rocky Creek. You can see over on the far bank the stone that is left from the abutment they have on that side. In the middle of the creek, you see cut stone, big blocks of cut stone. This stone was cut with a hammer and a chisel. That was a middle piling. And then you got more stones over here on this side. There was another piling, and we'll see more stone up in the woods. This was an extensive bridge, but it got washed out nonetheless in 1856. And they've rebuilt it, I think, about 4 times. I'm not sure when the last washout was, but we'll see more of the bridge right up here, and we'll see part of old Winsboro Road where it went up the hillside towards Winsboro. But you can see the amount of stone laying around here. This is all part of the bridge. Drill mark. Another drill mark, another drill mark, another drill mark. This is the most intact stone from the bridge across Rocky Creek. This is the last piling before it actually hit Winsboro Road at the top of the hill. The road is just behind those 2 large trees over the back of the rock, and it goes off to the right and goes up the hill towards Winsboro. By these drill marks, which is how they cut this stone, they used a hammer and a drill, and they would hammer a line of holes in a rock that size, and eventually it would crack. It would crack right along the seam of the line that they were drilling holes at. And that's the way they worked back then. And you see the size of this. This is a 1.5 feet thick. It's 5 feet long at least, and probably 1.5 feet deep too. It's a huge piece of stone. And that's what they built with. They took the stone that was here naturally and made money with it. The reason people settled here on the creek was because of the power they could generate using the water in the creek. For instance, a grist mill. A grist mill was for grinding corn into grits or cornmeal, and all the local people were farming for a living. They raised what they ate, and so a man that had a mill could make money, and he used the water coming from the creek to turn a big mill wheel, and the wheel would rotate and turn the grindstones, and he'd grind corn. This is a wall for either a canal or a road. This mill was put here because of the water. They had 2 water sources. They had Rocky Creek and Turkey Creek. I'll show you both of them. This is Turkey Creek. It was built next to Mr. Silby's property. This was around the Revolutionary War or before, and they had a whiskey distillery and a grist mill. And you go over here to the other side and you see another canal. That brought water in to the mill. I think the mill wheel was right in this area right here that you're standing in. But it's hard to tell. It could have been up there. But they built this here because it had 2 sources of water, which meant that a better chance of having water all the time so they can make more money. constructed first in about 1850, or I think it was 1850, and it changed hands. Mr. Pickett owned it, or Mr. Montgomery owned it. Hart built it, but he didn't keep it long. But they would sell it, and it would get washed away, and they'd rebuild. Evidently, the thing would make enough money to make it worth your while to rebuild. It was a flour mill. It was the only flour mill around, so people could grow wheat, and that added a huge thing to their diet in those days. So the last person to own it was a Jess Gladden, and he got it in 1878, and at the time this history I'm quoting was written in 1904, the Gladdens still owned it. Now when I was a youngster, I went to church with Mr. Jess Gladden, which I'm assuming was in the same family, a son or a grandson. But all of this is cut stone. And you've got a wall over here too. I wouldn't be surprised if the mill set right there, and they piped the water into the wheel somehow. A wheel had to, and the millstones had to be mounted on a firm foundation. That's why this granite was so important, is that it could take the vibration that those millstones created. Any lesser structure would just fall apart. All right, let's walk up the canal and I'll show you one more thing. We'll be done. We got the rock hop. Lead the way, Jackson.
I've already fell in this water one time, but play on the rocks. I'm gonna be a little bit more careful.
Now, can you imagine digging a ditch this deep in rocky country, and putting all this stonework up? Y'all come on through.
Like this stone behind the dirt.
Probably. Sometimes canals could be dirt walled. A lot of times for the canal company canals, they were nothing but a big ditch. That got crushed by a tree, but you see the steps they cut right there. The water came from over there somewhere and flowed right down those little steps and into that canal. They built this wall to divert it and keep it in.
So we want to thank Mike Vaughn, owner and operator of Great Falls Adventures, for showing us a little bit of the history of the old mill ruins.